Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Stroll, Chat and Cheer here at the Sea of Galilee. Look at that cloud. I think we have the biggest challenge today. And I'm not sure that we're going to have much gaps in it to see much else besides the cloud. I wonder if we'll get to see sunrise today, the sun itself. Actually, the light's pretty strong already, but the sun, how are we going to see it with so much cloud? You could almost say the same about human history. So much cloud. Just having a little connection issue there, switching from Wi-Fi to 4G. Look at this, people. The birds are up there jumping around, dancing around, diving, whichever verb you want to use. But look at the moon is up very high. Come on, moon. Oh, there we are. So the moon is waning already for the last day and a half, more or less, 2 days. Got a lovely picture of the moon last night. So welcome everybody to Sunrise Stroll and Chat. Wow, look at this bird coming out of here. That's one of our cranes. They're always along the water here. I wonder if we could catch them this morning. Let's go down and see. Oh, the gate's open so I won't make noise. Although I'm sure they hear me walking on the gravel. All the little beings in nature are so sensitive to their environment. They were looking at the Mount of Beatitudes. It's a little clearer here, but Mount Hermon is really hidden. So if we're going to see them, we might see them down here. Let me see. Let me go down here. Saw a lot of people along here yesterday evening at different moments. They like this spot. Let's look over here. They might be gone already. There's water over here a ways, but they're... No, I don't see any sign. I think they're gone. The water's going down. It used to be up there to the grey to the all that area a little higher up. Let me see. Yeah. So it's a couple of meters from where it was, but there's probably, I'm not sure. I haven't checked the. I should send you the link, or maybe somebody can do it. Just Kinnear's water levels. Just Google it and put in the link there for everybody. They can check the water level of the Sea of Galilee, which is not the most important thing to know in life, by the way. Sometimes we give too much attention to trivia. So for this part of there's our little bird here. She says, we're in her area, could we please leave? Where are you, little bird? She's right there, look. We're getting close up on you, little birdie. So welcome everybody, we're at Sunrise Stroll and Chat here at the Sea of Galilee. I touch there we are. Let me get a little closer very slowly, see how we can see her fly off. She wants us to follow her, she wants us to lead us away from here. It's amazing. And her little chicks then, when they come around next year and the year after, they're going to do the exact same thing. And how they learn that, it's amazing. So I have the camera very focused. As you can see, I'm walking very slowly, but it's very wobbly. So when we're too focused on some little point and we start moving major things in life, it'll be very wobbly, very risky. We need the big picture when we make big decisions to fly away. Sorry, you see what I did to you there, and I didn't move a fraction of what she did. Well, let's get the big picture again. Let's get the big picture. Come on. There we go. There we go. Now we got the big picture. So welcome everybody to Sunrise Stroll and Chat. We're going to be waiting for a while for the sun, but maybe it'll appear because that cloud is actually progressing eastward, so it won't be as high in another 15-20 minutes. So hopefully we'll get a glimpse of the rising sun. Meanwhile, let's go someplace else with a different reflection. You know, one of the things that archaeology, one of the messages I take away from archaeology personally is, I probably shared this before with you at some point in the last 4 or 5 months of Corona, closed down, pandemic. Actually, let's walk over here. And that's Soter. So one of the things that archaeology teaches me is, you know, the archaeologists find a little piece of fresco or a little piece of mosaic or a coin, and there's so much joy at that moment. Everybody in the dig comes over and checks it out and says, oh wow. They take pictures, they measure it, they make an incredible fuss about this little discovery. And it's understandable, because you're working there, you might be working for an hour or two and not find anything, and everybody is sweating in the heat and carrying out buckets of clay and stoop down in an uncomfortable position, brushing quarter inch or eighth of an inch by eighth of an inch, so you don't want to damage anything that might emerge. And the trained eye spots, oh, I got a coin, I found a coin. And so, oh, look at here, I just found, look at this. Right here in this piece of dirt. Look, there's a piece of pottery. Okay, but that's not a major discovery, people. That's simply, now you're down, if you got that close with your nose, you'd be smelling it, okay? That's a very small little piece, and I'll show you how small it is. Just wait a second here. In fact, there are more pieces around here. And this piece has a lot of history, recent history. Look at the size of it. And that's a piece of pottery that just got carried out here in the clay that was piled up here during our excavation since 2009, and I would bet since much later, maybe 2014, 12, 13, 14. So that's the history of that piece being in this position, okay? Because this hill didn't exist until a couple of years ago when we started digging. So what does archaeology teach me? Well, then the second part of it is, you know, the potter, when he made that piece of pottery and he finished doing it on the wheel and he knew it was pretty good and he wasn't going to break it and remake it, he was so happy, or the fresco painter was so happy to have painted their piece of fresco, and it came out so lovely. See the moon up there still. And then what happened? The town was built and everybody was happy, celebrating, big festivity. The biggest authorities in the region were in, opening this new building, you know. And the archaeologists, they have such joy celebrating the inauguration of a major building, a major piece of art. And then that joy is comparable to the joy the archaeologist has to find a little piece of pottery from 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. So it tells us that all these things are passing. There's an ebb and flow in history. And you know, I'm kind of happy that I'm up here on this site that's not very tidy. It's kind of your backyard. You don't want to show your neighbours when they're in visiting, or your relatives that came away from a long way away, and you don't want to show them your backyard that looks like this. This is kind of a tired, old backyard of a construction site that's been going on since 2000, and archaeological site since 2009, construction site since 3 or 4 years later. So, you know, this is life. We're in an archaeological site, we're in a construction site, We're in a project of building life. And we're looking over here right now to the site of the Franciscans. You see there's a tower here on the right side, the big green shrub. And just to the left of it, east of it, is the tower. And Magdala actually in Hebrew means, it comes from Migdal, or in Aramaic Magdala I think also. And both of these words mean tower. And then you have 1700 years of archaeology here piled up on each other in this site. That's the record so far archaeologically. So you have all these things, and I wanted to read the first reading today in that light, or under that cloud. So let's do it. You see there's a little tinge of light coming on the cloud, but not sufficient to say it's a sunrise by any long shot. I hear somebody over here, they're parked in the little service road leading over there to the Franciscan site, and they're blowing a horn. Maybe you can hear them. So we're reading a new prophet for us today, the prophet Nahum. And you have the major prophets and the minor prophets. And Nahum is one of the minor prophets, the seventh one. And he's a prophet of, generally he's known as the prophet of the destruction of Nineveh. So we're talking about the very late 600s before Christ, so 612, 614, around this time before Christ. So 2,600 years ago, that's when Nineveh is destroyed. And he's prophesying its destruction. And then who's Nineveh? Well, we also hear the word Assyrian. They were the Assyrian people, and they had about 300 years of heyday, rampaging and conquering all kinds of kingdoms and looting and pillaging and slaughtering and building up their empire in Nineveh. So the bell is ringing for closing of the market for Nineveh. Actually, the prophet Nahum is supposed to be from that town that suffered a lot in recent years in Iraq called Al-Kush. And in the opening line of the book it's mentioned, and there's a lot done for a tomb of his in Al-Kush in Iraq in a voluntary basis in recent years. But if you look up here in Galilee, there's another tradition that he's buried actually in Galilee. And if you look, there's a big little pole here. You see this pole here right in front of us, and if you look at the top of that pole, you're looking at the hills of Upper Galilee, and that's Safat, a famous Jewish mystical town. And then if you look a little to the west of there, and the division between Lower and Upper Galilee is supposedly another site where he might be buried. You know? So, who knows? That's one of the challenges, to know. Maybe there was a memorial there for him or something, a special memory of his. And then you have Capharnaum. Some people say maybe it's called after him. Some people say it's Capharnaim, the beautiful town. Capharnaum. Words get corrupted, they get assimilated. Names do, texts do, over time, so we don't have absolute certainty about that. So again, we're looking at a wonderful cloud here this morning, waiting for our sunrise at Sunrise Chat and Stroll here at the Sea of Galilee. And little lights coming along. I see Father Cristobal, he's our biblical scholar in residence. He's doing his doctorate, and he's up early over there doing his prayer. So let's go to the text. Listen to this text and think how current it is. See, upon the mountains there advances the bearer of good news, announcing peace. Celebrate your feasts, O Judah, fulfill your vows, for never more shall you be invaded by the scoundrel. He is completely destroyed. The Lord will restore the vine of Jacob, the pride of Israel. Though ravagers have ravaged them and ruined the tendrils,
Woe to the bloody city. And this is the piece I want you to really hear, because this is kind of, I'm sorry for people going to bed on the west coast of the Americas. Sorry people, sorry, because this is not the right text to read before you go to sleep. But it's very much what you just saw on CNN probably in the last couple of days. Woe to the bloody city, all the lies, full of plunder, whose looting never stops. The crack of the whip, the rumbling sounds of wheels, horses a-gallop, chariots bounding, cavalry charging, the flame of the sword, the flash of the spear, the many slain, the heaping corpses, the endless bodies to stumble upon. Isn't that a tremendous description of war? And they say in the original text it's poetry. It's, it even sounds poetry like this, but imagine in the original text of this prophet that's so inspired and so condemning of war, so perspicacious. He notices the detail and all the nuances of the destruction of war. And that's a cry from 2,600 years ago of satisfaction that this is over. And when World War I was over, there was the will around the world was, let never be a war happen again. Let's get together, let's talk. And then that was 1917 onwards, and 1939 onwards we had another world war. And how many wars since then? And before then, and before then, and before then. So this is part of human reality. And it's not just the big wars with the tanks and the galloping horses, it's in the kitchen. Pope Francis often says, when plates fly. And plates don't normally fly, but plates fly. And then he always says, the 3 most important words for a good family life. I wonder if you know those words. I found them brilliant. Just 3 words. If you use those 3 words every day, not just as words, but as actions, it's essential for a family life and a great program for educating children. 3 words you need to make sure that happen every day. That happen, not just are said. Happen. Thank you. May I? And sorry. Thank you appreciates the other person's contribution to our life in many different ways, even if it's just a smile. That's a huge gift. Thank you. May I? I don't take for granted that you're there and that I can do what I like. I will be deferential towards you. I will respect you. I will take you into consideration, especially for a married couple, because we are one. Till death do we part. May I? What do you think? How would you see this? What would you suggest? This whole idea of involving the will and the decision of the other. So difficult for us so many times in any kind of team, a work team, a neighbour's situation with a street improvement, a town hall meeting, a parliament, international bodies. How to have deference towards each other, And it's a little different than coming in with the sound of wheels, the crack of the whip, and the horses a-gallop, and the chariots bounding, and the cavalry charging, and the flame of the sword, and the flash of the spear, and the many slain, and the heaping corpses. The killing fields of Cambodia, Bosnia, Rwanda. It doesn't end. The endless bodies to stumble upon. I remember there was a very special coverage of Rwanda. I don't remember the name. And it was like a documentary, and there's this guy driving, and it's very uncomfortable in the Jeep, and the other guy saying, what's going on? And says, well, the street is filled with bodies. Like, how awful, But then the next lines come, and it says, Nineveh is destroyed. Who can pity her? Where can one find any to console her? So the powerful, the mighty, the arrogant, the oppressor, the cheat, the extortionist, it all comes to an end. And if we look here, 1700 years of archaeology, and that's nothing compared to, Bet Shean and Megiddo and other sites across the Middle East. So much history in Egypt, in Mesopotamia, so much history of war. and so much destruction, and all these wonderful buildings and beautiful frescoes and delightful mosaics and extraordinary ceramic, all of this, you know, just little pieces left over, like this little piece of pottery at my feet. Two pieces right beside each other here. You smell them there, smell them, your nose is down at the ground there, people. Look at another little piece over here where they're from the same vase, I don't know. You know? This is the mystery of life, the challenge of life, and the mission we all have to educate for peace. And also to educate to people that have, let's say, a temperament that's very dominating, to educate that they don't actually control the world forever. Time passes very quickly, in fact. It's hard for the people suffering while it's lasting, but it's not the whole thing. It's not all of reality. It's not permanent by any stroke of the imagination. It's about as fast moving as these clouds. So that's a pretty sober message this morning. Well, I always come back to that line at the Mount of Beatitudes just up there, you know. Blessed are those who mourn, they shall be comforted. And actually one of the possible meanings of Nahum is comfort. And that was often the mission of the prophets, to comfort my people. How many people have given much comfort during the corona pandemic? When a child is sick, when a grandparent is sick, to give comfort, to be a people that cares, a person that cares. Look at all the birds here, our squadron. This was a good vantage point to catch them. They're the parrot type ones. So we can see that the sun is rising, but it's pretty hidden. The psalm is also kind of a hard line for us to digest today. We want a cozy, hugging image of God. It is I who deal death and give life. Close at hand is the day of their disaster. We're in Psalm 32. Oh, sorry, it's actually Deuteronomy. So in the Bible we have the book of Psalms, but we have many psalm-like pieces throughout the text of Scripture. So they're called canticles, which means a song, which is basically what the Psalms are. So then sometimes the psalm is taken from one of these canticles. Also in the New Testament we have canticles. It is I who deal death and give life. So this is from Deuteronomy chapter 32. And there's this wonderful line, close at hand is the day of their disaster, and their doom is rushing upon them. Surely the Lord shall do justice for his people. On his servants he shall have pity. I'm going to start walking back, people, just because of our time situation. And what comes to mind is Psalm 2. The kings of the earth make their plans, but God in heaven laughs. The kings of the earth make their plans, but God in heaven laughs. Of course, while that is absolutely true, it doesn't reduce the pain, the real physical pain that people here felt at the port of Magdala when the Romans were doing their slaughter. Not sure if it happened here, because we actually didn't find evidence of warlike destruction in Magdala, and we know that Magdala was a scene of a Roman battle, like Gamla in the Golan, before the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem. I might be wobbling a little bit here, people. The ground is not even. By the way, I want to say thank you for all the people that are sharing and making this. It looks like there are usually between 1,400 and 2,000. Even in the last week went over 2,000 viewings of the Sunrise Stroll in chat. So thank you for all of you who are sharing. It's a little task you can do. if you know in your parish or your church, if you tell them. I know some of you are very, very active sharing like that. And but in a simple way, you could tell somebody. Sometimes people, a lot of our viewers may not have their own personal list to send it to, but they might know somebody that does. And this way you can share the blessing of the beauty of nature here, and also the gift of God's Word each day in this gentle way. Hopefully it's gentle. Oops, sorry about that, that wasn't gentle. Here we have these crows. We are getting a little light here, a little reflection. Excuse me. I'm sorry for you because the microphone is close to my chin, therefore it's close to my nose. So you were closer to that sneeze than you normally are. But I think we have enough social distancing here with this instrument that you shouldn't have to worry about anything, God willing. It's nice and fresh this morning. Look at that water. Didn't mean to get that crow, but there we got him. Oh. That was one of our cranes. Look at all that cloud. So, I think this will be our joy today to see the effect on the clouds. Not sure we'll see much sunrise. That'll make us appreciate the days we do see it. These gigantic trees. And they started out as little saplings. The moon is still up high, which you wouldn't be able to see that much if there was, well, maybe you would, if there was that much cloud. So people, thank you for joining us. Wish you many, many blessings today. And by the way, somebody asked about the WhatsApp group. You cannot write on that WhatsApp group. And the reason for that is only the administrator can write, so that people aren't burdened by a ton of people commenting stuff. So it's a very business-like, serious thing just to let you know about some development here or something happening, like there's an opportunity to do a live stream. It's just so that you're alerted to something interesting here so you don't miss it happening. And that's the only reason for it. If you want to be in that list, just sign up, but you can't send messages there. If you want to send messages, for example, those of you who send me messages about donations or things, you can send them in a personal WhatsApp just using that same number, but just send a separate message to me. Don't answer on the chat because it won't allow you, and that protects everybody from getting barraged by tons of messages. So I'll say, oh, by the way, forgot to mention yesterday, I posted, or 2 days ago, I posted a poster of a Mary Magdalene event this weekend. So check it out so you can participate. Make sure you notice it. There's a whole schedule listed there. And you might be confused because it says, for example, Mass at 2 o'clock, but it's our 4 o'clock Mass, because the schedule that's given there is the time zone of England and Ireland. And it's a group are organising it. It was done in Spanish last week, and it's being done this weekend in English. So check that out, and we might post it again, or somebody can repeat post it, please. You can repeat post it. One of you, don't everybody do it. One person repeat post it here on this chat, and then you can then have it. God bless you. See you later, alligators.